Good morning, everybody, and this is your Forex day trade setups for today. So, starting off with EUR-USD, and I think the first thing to keep in mind is that this trend line here is still intact. We did break through it last week, but we pretty much came back in below the trend line, and looks like we've tried to test it. There are a few magnets to the downside. We'll get to those on the hour right just now, but at the moment we do have a crossover of the moving averages. We have diversions here, so there's our low. There's our higher low, where's low, low. So we've got diversions, got a magnet down the bottom. I expect a bit of a pullback and then probably backwards and forth, sort of consolidating on this area until we figure out which direction we're going. So if you look at the hour, first things first is we have a gap down here. And that gap it's not visible on the hour, but, well, it is actually visible on the hour. Let me just zoom in. So as far as I'm concerned, tails are not, they don't close the gap. You need the body to close the gap. So that's the way I approach gaps. And you can see I've got a few tails coming down onto the gap here yesterday, but in my books that gap is still open, so that's still a magnet. We do have a rejection of the moving averages that happened yesterday, and we're pulling back right now. So I think for me the interesting scenario would be to see what transpires at 123.63. Decent pullback, probably a Fibonacci pullback as well. There you go, 61.8 right here, previous breakout retest. So that's the area I'm looking for, 123.63. See if we can get some price action here. What would I be looking for? Going to be pin bars, inside bars. So you can see there's two pin bars, there's an inside bar or an engulfing bar. All the patterns I look for are all sitting over here. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. And then another opportunity to buy into this to see if we're going to get a trend reversal of sorts. So there is the next trend line. Okay, so bounce off here should give us the previous high. If we get above that, then I would expect us to tag this trend line at 128.92. So I don't expect any fireworks at the moment. And the other thing to bear in mind is that this area here of 125.84 is going to offer some resistance. We've got a bit of a gap there on the an opening gap. Yeah, that's an opening gap for today. So probably down, up, and sort of bounce around in some form of triangle before breaking in a direction. So very cautious to be very cautious on that at the moment. If we look at USD Japanese yen, down for a couple of weeks, and we had 1 week solid up, pull back onto this weekly trend line 109.093 area. So it does look like we've rejected it. We're moving up. We do have a crossover brewing, and we are above the 155. Only thing that concerns me is we have diversions, and this diversions, so price is making high, oscillator is making lows, and a crossover. It looks like we're more than likely going to go sideways or pull back. So big strong move down, pull back. I would expect us, logically, not that the market's logical, but I would expect us to come and test this break here. If you look at on the hour, if we can get our chart to work, if we look at it on the hour, you'll see big move up, big move down, sort of consolidating below the moving average, sort of bouncing up bed. Look over here, there is some structure here, so we'll have to wait and see what transpires here. But 109.265, even a bit higher at 109.355, that area, if we sort of get a rejection there, and the rejection I'm looking for again is pin bars, inside bars, engulfing bars. If I can get that kind of structure off those levels, you're probably looking for another move to the downside, and it's going to be the second leg of this move down. This move down and then up and then down. Look at this gap that happened in the middle of the trading session as well. So a gap was actually on a couple of indexes as well. So anyway, that's kind of my view on those two at the moment. It's a bit cautious. I'm not 100% sure whether we're going to get a trend brewing or not. If we move across the pound yen, so British pound yen, we are pretty much still stuck in this sideways motion, and we had this flag that I gave you yesterday, we've had a break of the flag and now we're sort of consolidating. I suspect that the flag is going to play out. I think we have a few targets to the upside. That's the first one. That's 152.492. Then we have that one at 153.200, and then we have the measured move at 154.184. So that's kind of the view that I have at the moment on that. If you looked at the hour, you'll see yesterday is just a barbed wire day. So nice strong move up, and then during the the US session, we just basically went sideways. It's pretty much what most of the US markets did. The interesting fact for me at the moment is the oscillators. They are separating, and if they cross over this far apart, expect this measured move to play out. You're then expecting it to start tagging all these levels. So this is something worth watching today. I don't think it's going to continue like this forever, but we have been consolidating for quite some time. And if you come to the weekly, you'll see it's a strong move up, a pretty strong weekly consolidation in a consolidation area. And once we get through that area, look what we have. We have very little to the upside. Okay, we've got a little short bit of consolidation here, but not as much as what's in those lines at the moment. So this is well worth watching. British pound on its way, well, the UK starting to open up now after the pretty lengthy COVID lockdown. So it should impact the pound some way or another. So anyway, that's kind of the view that we have there. And lastly, Euro British pound. So we are still waiting for this breakout, and at first glance it doesn't really look like it's going to transpire, but for me at the moment this is just a consolidation area. We need to break above or below this consolidation area before I even start looking at this, and it's staying on my watch list because I still believe we have a fairly strong move once we get above 0.87167. So at the moment, above the moving averages, drop below. We're now below the moving averages. Look at my oscillators starting to sort of come together far apart, and that is a break of this area here, 0.86750. So there are a few gaps here to the downside. There's some micro gaps in the downside. So I suspect, by the looks of things, we're probably going to move to the downside, and I think the best way to do this is take a conservative view of what the range is, bring it down here and put yourself a level in, and you should find some structure to the left, and there's your structure to the left. So that's kind of the view at the moment. What I would do with this one is look for a London breakout strategy. So wait for these bars to finish today. Not today, but the first 7 1 hour bars, let that finish, then get your range up there. Like at the moment, that's what it is. We break below on a 5 or a 10-minute chart, and that's going to give you a confirmation. Put your stop above this structure, and you're looking for this area down here, 0.86400, to be tagged. Overall, I'm still looking at this as a inverse head and shoulders to move back up and test these areas up here, but that may not transpire by the looks of things when you look at the weekly. So we are in this consolidation area, but it also does look like we're trying to break below this area here, which also makes sense based on what's happening in the UK at the moment. So anyway, either or at the moment, but I think I'm kind of leaning towards a break to the downside at the moment. That we're not going to get the break to the upside of this big inverse head and shoulders that we had in play here. So that's kind of the view I've got on Forex this morning. Really worth watching the pound, I think, by the looks of things. Dollar is not really interesting me at the moment, but the pound pairs definitely look like there's opportunity there. And if you actually have a look at the pound Aussie dollar, you probably find a half decent setup there as well. Anyway, that's it for me. Hope it helps, and we'll catch up with you later. Cheers for now.